Welcome to the American Railroading Podcast, brought to you by the Revolution Rail Group, live from the great state of Texas. Join us as we educate, entertain, and explore the world of American railroading. Here's your host, industry veteran, Don Walsh.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the American Railroading Podcast. I am your host, Don Walsh, President and CEO of the Revolution Rail Group. We are the anchor sponsor of the American Railroading Podcast. We're a consulting and brokering firm in the railcar industry, serving any kind of consulting, whether it's merger and acquisition consulting, process flow analysis, market analysis. We can help you with that. We can also help you with buying and leasing and subleasing of railcars. You can reach out to us at 884-455-3434 or info@therevolutionrailgroup.com. You can also check out our full suite of services on our website at therevolutionrailgroup.com. Well, I hope everyone had an amazing Christmas with family and friends. You probably see all of my Christmas stuff still up in the studio, and that's because we're recording a little early this month so that everybody can enjoy their Christmas and New Year's off. So our guest and producer John and I, we didn't want to have to come in around Christmas and record, of course. So I'm sure you can understand that. So enjoy all the Christmas decorations and that behind me, as it's Christmas in our hearts all year long, right? But it is hard to believe that 2025 is coming to a close already. We've had an amazing year, thanks to y'all, with all your downloads, all your shares, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Thanks to all of you, we continue to remain in the top 10% of all podcasts globally. So we've now been downloaded in 62 countries around the world. So it continues to increase every month on 42 different platforms, which has also increased again this month. Apple Podcast being number one, Spotify being number two. This is interesting too, guys. So I know I talked last month about how Canada and UK and Australia vie for second place month to month. Well, guess what? So all-time downloads is still US by quite a large margin, but UK has finally taken over second place all-time downloads from Canada. So Canada, you're slipping. Start sharing with your friends. Get that number back up. And for the month, US is number one. Australia is back in second place for the month. Canada is in third. Along with UK right behind. So hello to our new friends in Angola and Finland, as well as our friends in Austria, Germany, and South Africa. Please continue to download, subscribe, share, and leave us reviews. I know I say it every month, but reviews really help us out a lot. It gets us out into the interwebs on the algorithms for more people to listen to us and to watch us on YouTube and enjoy the podcast. So please continue to leave us reviews. If you liked what you heard on the podcast, you can also buy us a cup of coffee. So you can go to our website at americanrailroading.net. Click on a little yellow coffee cup you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. You can buy us a cup of coffee, whether it's $3, 3 cups, 5 cups, 10 cups, whatever you want to do. It's like leaving us a tip for doing a good job on the podcast. So thank you for those of you that have and those of you that will. Don't forget, we have a YouTube channel. So if you like watching the podcast versus listening to the podcast, you can do that as well. You can either go to our website at americanrailroading.net and click on the videos tab, or you can go to our YouTube channel at YouTube at American Railroading Podcast. Again, that's YouTube at American Railroading Podcast. Please be sure to check out our online store. So we have our online store at americanrailroading.net. Again, you can click on the stores tab and shop to your heart's desire. We have challenge coins on there, which a portion of the sales go to our friends over at Boots for Troops here in Magnolia, Texas. And there's all kinds of stuff on there. So please check out our store, especially here at Christmas time, right? And buy stuff for you, your family, friends, and shop to your heart's desire. We're continuing to see tremendous increases in audio and video downloads for the year as we close out 2025. So we're seeing increases in YouTube subscribers as well. Just in the last 12 months, we've seen a 222% increase in audio downloads, a 140% increase in YouTube subscribers, and a 171% increase in video watch time, with a consistent increase month over month. So thank you guys. That is all thanks to each and every one of you that's listening and watching right now. So to the businesses out there, I say this is a good opportunity for you to promote your brand with a podcast sponsorship. We have a platinum sponsorship, gold sponsorship, and several silver sponsorships available. So if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the American Railroading Podcast, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'll be glad to share all of our sponsorship information with you. You can reach out to us today at marketing@americanrailroading.net. Again, that's marketing@americanrailroading.net. So the Association of American Railroads is a vital part of American railroading, which should surprise no one, right? I'm excited to have our guest on today to discuss the AAR, review 2025, and look ahead to 2026. And my guest for today is Ian Jefferies. Ian is President and CEO of the AAR based in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to go through his bio now, which is quite incredible. Mr. Jefferies began his career in government serving as a senior advisor to the mayor of Lexington, Kentucky, before transitioning to the federal government. Ian then worked for the U.S. Department of Transportation, Office of the Inspector General, and the U.S. Government Accountability Office. That's a mouthful. In these roles, Mr. Jefferies led program reviews on a variety of issues, including infrastructure development, international trade, major weapons systems acquisition, which sounds interesting, and federal contracting. From 2009 to 2013, Ian served as a senior policy advisor to the chairman of the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. In this role, Ian provided policy guidance on a host of transportation issues, including railroad economic regulation, rail safety, and passenger rail. Mr. Jefferies also led the successful development, negotiation, and reauthorization of major infrastructure legislation and managed the successful conference of committee legislation regulating to the 2012 Surface Transportation Reauthorization Law, MAP 21. Prior to assuming the role of president and CEO of the AAR on January 1st, 2019, Mr. Jefferies was the senior vice president of the AAR's government affairs, where he led the development, promotion, and implementation of legislative priorities for the AAR. As the Association of American Railroads, AAR's president and CEO, Ian advocates for and works with member railroads to ensure the continued viability of America's railroad industry. Ian also serves as a board member for Railinc, MxV Rail and GoRail. And there's more. Mr. Jefferies received his Master of Science in Public Policy and Management from Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, PA, and his Bachelor of Science in Economics from the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. Ian lives in Alexandria, Virginia with his wife and 3 children, and Ian enjoys University of Kentucky Wildcat basketball, traveling internationally with his family, and running. He likes to run. Ian recently completed the 50th anniversary Marine Corps Marathon, which begins between the Pentagon and Arlington National Cemetery and ends at the U.S. Marine Corps War Memorial. Ian, I hope I didn't miss anything, but welcome to the American Railroading Podcast.
Well, it's a very kind intro. I appreciate it, and it's great to see you, and I'm happy to be on. It's an exciting time, and happy to help you close out the year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I understand you're also a Georgia Bulldogs fan. So any preferences on who they face in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day?
You know what? Doesn't matter. You got to beat everybody in your path if you're going to be national champions. And, it's funny. There were a lot of folks saying they'd be better off if they did not go to the SEC championship. And I appreciated what their coach said. He's like, no, absolutely not. I still care about conference championships. They still matter. And I was really pleased to see them just roll over Alabama and get another SEC championship, and they're primed for the college football playoff.
Absolutely, they are. Well, with a master's degree in public policy and management, you clearly knew that you wanted to be involved in some sort of government affairs early on. So what initially sparked your interest?
Yeah, when I was working at the local level, local politics, really, seeing in local governments, where the rubber really meets the road, you see the impacts of decisions that are made very quickly, very early on. And you hear about them literally walking down the street. People run into you and talk about things, good, bad, ugly that the government's doing. And so I had an opportunity to start helping out with some campaigns, specifically the mayor's campaign. And even though we were outspent 5-1, we pulled across the finish line first. And so that was my first real taste, and really just an interest in, policy and helping develop policies that, impact everyday Americans' lives, hopefully for the better. And it just kind of grew one step at a time from there. So, working locally and then going to grad school at Carnegie Mellon was a fantastic opportunity, great experience. And that led me down to DC, which, it's been a long and winding path, but it's been interesting and rewarding every step of the way.
And what got you into transportation and rail specifically along the way?
So when I was at the GAO, really started getting exposed. The great thing about the GAO is you rotate around your first few years, so you're hitting on different subject areas. That's why my experiences at the GAO are so kind of all over the place. But it's really, I think it's a huge attribute to having the opportunity to work there. You get exposed to so many different things, and doing infrastructure work really caught my eye, caught my interest. And then in 2009, we passed the American Recovery Act. And at that point, about $50 billion was sent over to the Department of Transportation back when $50 billion was a lot of money. And my director at the GAO at the time, she signed on to be one of the senior leaders at the IG's office. And she asked me to come over and help run a project to basically oversee and analyze DOT's ability to push this money out the door in a merit-based, efficient, timely manner. And so that took me over to the DOT, again, opening my eyes to new parts of government and new ways of doing things. And I was only there about 11 months for this project. And, as luck has it and things, one door closes, another opens up, and opportunity opened up on the Senate Commerce Committee in the transportation space. And so I was fortunate enough to get selected and have the opportunity to work over there. And that was probably the ultimate dream at that point, was to really be, in Congress, impacting, the ability to develop legislation on behalf of the chair and move it through committee, work with other offices, and then, work with the House to get things across the finish line into federal law. That was very rewarding, very exciting, very just, I look out the window, I see the Capitol every day, and I never get tired of seeing it. It's not exactly a place of premier functionality these days, but there's no place else like it in the world. And, that really kind of got me entrenched in transportation policy and haven't looked back.
Yeah, and now you're with the AAR, and you have been for quite some time. So let's talk about the AAR just a little bit. Per your website at aar.org, since 1934, which I did not realize the AAR had been around that long, the AAR has been the leading voice for the U.S. freight rail industry, driving policy, research, and technology to enhance safety and efficiency. Freight rail is a cornerstone of the U.S. economy, which of course we all know, powering industries, facilitating trade, and supporting some of America's safest and highest paid jobs, all while operating on a privately funded infrastructure that eases congestion on tax-funded roads. And I didn't realize it was all privately funded. From bulk commodities to intermodal freight, rail ensures the seamless movement of goods nationwide, serving as a vital link in the global supply chains. So we'll get into the core functions of the AAR in just a minute, but what can you tell us about kind of why the AAR came about in the first place?
It is pretty astounding that last year we celebrated our 90th anniversary as an organization. So I don't know. I'm sure there might be other industry associations in DC that are older, but I can't imagine there's too many of them. But when you think about rail in particular and why it was important to establish an advocacy arm and an association arm in Washington, DC, well, our industry was the first federally regulated industry. And so the federal government really drives, the policies upon which we have to operate under. And so I think, sharp minds in the industry early on saw the need to have a body advocating and working on behalf of the industry here in DC. And certainly, it's paid dividends over the years. And we've worked really hard to be a prominent force for the industry, and of course, working with the individual railroads as well. And we've got a pretty good track record, and it's something I'm really proud of, and frankly, just honored to have the opportunity to lead the organization on behalf of the industry and advocate for the organization for what is truly a special industry with a unique history in this country, and it doesn't get more American than railroading. It's all within the good old US of A. It's tangible. It's steel on steel. It's real. And it makes me proud every day to go out and, fight the fights for us.
And it keeps you busy, because I know you said you have to go to the hill yet today. So you're going to be pretty busy.
Yeah.
So let's get into the day-to-day core functions of the AAR, policy making. Right. Working with elected officials. And again, this is all on the website as well. Working with elected officials and leaders in Washington, D.C., the AAR advances sound public policy that supports the interests of the freight rail industry, as you said, ensuring they continue to meet America's transportation needs today and tomorrow. So can you give us some examples of what policy making in D.C. Would be like?
Sure. And so when we look at the structure of the AAR, first think about our membership. So we have all the Class 1 freight railroads. We also have a number of the larger short line railroads. We also have Amtrak and some of the commuter railroads. And so we really represent, and on top of that, we have an associate program that's made up of the supplier manufacturing base for the industry. And so we really represent the entire ecosystem and are able to be the tip of the spear. And so organizationally, we're set up so we have a government affairs arm. We have a legal arm that does a lot of the regulatory work and litigation when necessary on behalf of the industry. We have a large public affairs / communications function. And we have a policy and economics department that does all the analysis about the industry and traffic and everything along those lines, puts out a ton of great data very highly thought of as far as our data quality, unrivaled. And then, of course, we have our safety and operations department, which really is responsible for interchange standards, the kind of internal industry regulation of how we operate with one another. And then, of course, we have our finance and administration department, which keeps the organization functioning literally. But in DC, so advocacy can mean a lot of things. It can mean being up on Capitol Hill and good old fashioned lobbying, shoe leather lobbying. It can mean working with the administration, either through filings, regulatory activities. It can mean on the communications front, either providing cover, providing pressure on helping support those other efforts on getting good laws in place, getting good regulations in place, and then that policy and economics piece really underscores everything. That's all the information upon which we build our arguments out on, and so it's kind of a multi-pronged approach, depending on what's going on. But certainly, Congress and the administration are our core audiences in trying to pursue and advocate for the industry's policy agenda.
Well, and I really love how you said shoe leather policy or politics, where you're having to actually get out there and put your steps in. And I imagine you guys put in a lot of steps.
We do. To me, that's still the most effective way to advocate. You can do social media, you can do everything under the sun, but walking the halls of Congress, being physically there, that's still, to me, the number one way to get things done. Developing strong relationships, all that sort of thing.
Oh, I totally agree. And I keep saying I'm going to attend Railroad Day on the Hill, and I'm going to do that one day. I really want to get out there and see how the sausage is made, so to speak. Standard setting is another aspect of a core function of the AAR. And again, per the website at aar.org, it says, as the standard setting organization for North American railroads, the AAR establishes safety, security, and operating standards that provide seamless and safe operations across America's nearly 140,000 mile freight rail network, which most people probably don't realize there's 140,000 miles of rail out there, but there absolutely is. So having grown up in the rail car space myself, I'm very familiar with 49 CFR and the AAR interchange standards, Bureau of Explosives, et cetera. And I try to explain to people outside of our industry the level of standards and regulations that we have to adhere to ensure that rail cars are safe for interchange and suitable for use. So starting with the rail cars themselves, can you explain to our audience the level of and types of standards that rail cars themselves must meet for interchange and why that's so important?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question. But let's step back a little. So why is it so valuable that we do have the interchange standards? So of course we have government regulation through the FRA and PHMSA and myriad other, frankly, federal agencies, and they set the regulations upon which we're legally required to comply with. However, government moves really slow, and via the interchange standards, the industry working cooperatively can work with a much more nimble, fast-paced nature. So if we see an issue arise, we could wait around for the government to address it. That'd take 4, 5, 6 years or never. Or we can work, voluntarily and proactively at the industry level to take on initiatives and changes that we know will advance safety without having to wait. And frankly, that to me, that is a huge value add that the interchange standards provide. And of course, it's done in a venue with all parties hopefully working together. I know sometimes we have a bit of friction here and there, but I think by and large, at the end of the day, we usually get to a spot that everybody can work with, live with, and is safety advancing. So, you talked about cars specifically. Obviously, we have the tank car committee. We've got several other committees. Tank car committee is probably kind of the preeminent one when it comes to rail cars. But for every type of car and every type of component on a car, we've probably got a committee for it. And we have experts, technical experts, not only here at the AAR who help run the committees, but then experts from the industry, whether it's from the car owners, car builders, railroads, et cetera, all stakeholders coming together to really push in these venues for what is best for safety and what is best for the industry. And it is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but one thing I know for sure is that everyone who's involved in our committee structures is truly dedicated to doing the right thing. And maybe they come from different angles at times, but at the end of the day, everyone's trying to get to the same place, which is operating to the highest level of safety that we can as an industry to protect the goods we're moving, support our customers, and of course, support communities in which we operate.
Yeah, and I try to explain to people about the office manual and the field manual, how intricate all that is. It's not as simple as anyone can just go out there and turn a wrench on something. I mean, there are standards involved. And so when I hear, and I won't get down this rabbit hole just yet, but the media is saying how we don't take safety seriously, or that we don't have enough regulation around rail cars. I try to explain to people too that it's almost like medical billing. If you ever see your medical invoice after visiting the hospital for whatever reason, we're more complicated than that. But I think it's good. I think it's a good thing to have all that in place and to ensure the safety, not only of the rail cars themselves, but of the people that are working around them. So
I've been in congressional hearings where I have taken attacks about the fact that we are doing things that the government has not yet regulated. And to me, that is something I'm most proud of, that we aren't waiting for government, that there don't have to be regulations for us to do things. When it comes to wayside detection, for example, railroads have invested hundreds of millions of dollars to advance safety through wayside detection, even though the government hasn't required it. Even though there may not be a regulation, if the government ever saw a need, certainly it's welcome to step into that space. But we haven't waited around for that. And think about all the safety improvements that have occurred, because good safety is good business and it's good for everything we do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you just touched on my next subject, which is regarding the railroad themselves. We talked about the rail cars. And so what are some examples of the standards set by the AAR to benefit the railroads?
Well, so basically, everything, the interchange standards are so, I'm not going to say ingenious, but so well run that it truly allows it's a forcing mechanism, right? And so, of course, on the rail cars, the most straightforward one, but on like I just mentioned, wayside detection. In the past year and a half, the industry has adopted best practices for different thresholds. Sometimes different railroads do things different ways, and we have the opportunity to say, hey, let's bring everybody together and let's figure out who's doing what and what's worked best and what might be appropriate to adopt for the industry to have the best safety outcome. And so whether it's different types of detections, as you mentioned, rail cars are a major piece of that, or locomotive components, et cetera. Pretty much every aspect, track, dealing just, for example, with, track in extreme weather, heat, et cetera. Like what are the most appropriate operating rules around that? Handling hazmat. Again, we have basic federal rules and laws, but there's so much more that we do because there's a good safety case to be made. And so pretty much every aspect of railroading we touch via our committee structure, via the interchange standards and related here. And
I was going to mention that too, that there isn't much that happens in the railroad that you're not involved with, which anyone in the industry surely knows that by now. The AAR works with railroads in Canada and Mexico as well. So do the AAR standards apply there also?
To some extent, yes. I mean, if they're coming into the U.S., of course they have to comply with AAR standards. At the same time, we're working not only with Canada and Mexico, but frankly, several other countries come to us and with an interest in adopting our standards or something similar thereof because of the safety attributes of doing so. The North American rail network is largely integrated, and so we need to be kind of all playing from the same set of music and work very hard to do that.
And when we say railroads too, I want to make clear, because you mentioned this earlier, that does include, I should say, Class 1 railroads, short line railroads, and even passenger rail with Amtrak. Is that correct?
Correct. Of course. Yeah. They're a key member. They're a member of my board, permanent standing member of the board. And, sometimes, passenger and freight may not exactly see eye to eye on everything, but we work really hard to try to minimize those occurrences and create an environment and a venue for folks to work together on things that, that creates an outcome that works for everyone. Yeah. It's better to have everybody in the room than not in the room, right?
Totally agree. Yeah, for sure. And at this time of year with the holidays and everything, I'm sure a lot of people are on Amtrak visiting friends and family. And there's actually some really cool trips people can take on Amtrak too. I want to do that one day. It's another thing I haven't done yet for all my years in rail, but I'm going to do it. There's one that runs through the Rocky Mountains, I believe, with a panoramic car. And that's on my list. It's on my bucket list. Well, I'd like to take just a moment and recognize our gold sponsor, EnviroServe. EnviroServe is America's premier provider of comprehensive, reliable, effective, and eco-friendly environmental solutions for the rail industry. Their rail services include mobile rail car cleaning, flaring, interior blasting and transloading, removal and replacement of tank car service equipment, and leak testing. Complete HAZ and non-HAZ waste handling, management, remediation, and disposal services, 24/7 emergency spill response, and more. To learn more, please visit their website at www.enviroserve.com. So another aspect of the AAR is industry insights. And again, per AAR.org, it states that our expert economists prepare weekly, quarterly, and annual statistic reports that provide insight into the operations of North America's freight railroads. So you don't have to get too far into the weeds on this, but what type of statistical reports are available?
If you want to know something about the industry, we've got probably some sort of paper on it. I'll be honest. So whether it's volumes, whether it, even commodity specific information, whether it's state, we have information about rail in all 50 states and, the number of railroads, what they are, the types of commodities moved in and out, the number of employees, all that sort of thing. So if you're curious about information in your state, we've got a fact sheet for you. Every one of our policy positions, we've got fact sheets, data sheets. We've got so many different new video offerings we're really rolling out. We created an AI commentator that we named Harley, and we've got a little series called Harley Explains, and it's just kind of straightforward and broken down to kind of base level explaining key things around railroading. So we're really trying, and then we go much more in depth on the video front as well, really trying to offer up a suite of information based on the level of sophistication, interest, expertise, time that you have, frankly, from the novice who wants to learn a little bit quickly to the industry expert who needs to do a deep dive into core data about something around, traffic or volumes or commodities, something like that. So, I mean, it is the nerve center for information about this industry. And I encourage everybody to check it out. If there's a topic you're curious about, I guarantee you we've got something for it on the site.
I agree. I've been in there and there's lots to go through.
And we're revamping it all the time and, making sure that it's like AI scraping is picking up stuff from our website because we want our stuff because our information is the right information. So we want to make sure that's what comes up when people are searching for things. So we work very hard to make sure that is the preeminent source for rail information. I feel like I gave a commercial, but
no, that's perfect. And so how do people get to use Harley? Is there a link in the?
There is, okay. Yeah, the whole little section there, and we're rolling out little videos. It's a fun way of doing things, and like I said, just kind of a straightforward, simple way of explaining. I think the first one was what was the Staggers Act, and why was it needed? And they're little, just couple minute animated videos, but again, trying to have something for everybody.
That's great. I love that. And our audience can learn more about that, again, on your website at aar.org in the data center. There's lots of stuff in the data center, lots of stuff. So the next aspect is research and technology. And again, on the website, it states that through its two subsidiaries, Railinc and MxV Rail, the AAR supports continued research and development projects that enhance the safety, security, and efficiency of the railroad industry. So I am very familiar with both, I'm glad to say. So we'll start with Railinc. They're based in Cary, North Carolina, which I have a lot of family in Cary, in and around Cary, so I'm very familiar with Triangle Park and that whole area there. Per the website at public.railinc.com. Railinc is the railroad industry's most innovative and reliable resource for technology solutions. They support business processes and provide business intelligence that help railroads and rail equipment owners increase productivity, achieve operational excellence, and keep their assets moving, which is very important, obviously. Railinc is the industry's largest and most accurate source for real-time interline rail data. So at a high level, what can you tell our audience about Railinc?
Well, so Railinc is one of two wholly owned for-profit subsidiaries. So they operate as your kind of standard for-profit company. And if you think about, again, we operate a wholly integrated network. Everybody's always moving across each other's tracks with, different ownership and cars and other assets. So there's a whole lot of information that gets exchanged amongst the industry and in between the industry. And Railinc is kind of that clearinghouse for all that data running through and making sure that, it goes to the right people and that whether it's, billing issues, car hire issues, things along those lines. And that's kind of the bread and butter of what Railinc does. However, at the same time, they also offer several commercial products, business intelligence, things along those lines, and really are getting into trying to solve industry solutions. So if there are things that all the railroads are dealing with on their own, Railinc's really an organization and a place where they have the ability, because of their knowledge across the entire industry, to say, hey, you know what, we might be able to do that here so that the industry, the railroads aren't having to do it umpteen different times. We can do it once and everyone can use this tool. And so it's a huge asset to the industry overall. Really cool company, and just continuing to evolve kind of a very rapid clip in this ever innovative space we're in, where every day there's a new capability coming online. And so really just developing those applications to support the industry, the railroads, other stakeholders, car owners, et cetera.
There's so much good information in there, whether it's the car owner, you can track the reporting marks and see who owns the car or who manages the car. There's rail car repair shop information in there. There's, I believe, Steel Roads, right, is in there for track and trace. So lots of good stuff in there. And people can access that information through the website at public.railinc.com. Now, MxV Rail is one of my favorite places to visit. It is so much fun to go out there, and they do all kinds of events and training seminars and so forth. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to get a tour of the facility by MxV Rail's president, Carrie Gonzalez, who we also had on the podcast in season 1. So I highly recommend everybody go back and listen to the episode with Carrie as we go through all of what MxV Rail does. Again, at a high level, what can you tell us about MxV Rail?
So another company I'm so proud that we have in kind of the AAR family. It's our other for-profit subsidiary, and MxV is nothing short of the premier R&D company for the industry globally, frankly. So whether it's testing of equipment, whether it's modeling, data analysis, whether it's first responder training, that's something that doesn't get talked about quite as much. We train upwards of 2,000 first responders in live fire real-time exercises. So many cool things going on out there. And so they do a lot of work, not only for the U.S. industry, but frankly, internationally, and just hosted the International Heavy Haul Conference and the World Railroad Conference in a combined conference 3 weeks ago out in Colorado Springs. Had about 1,200 people from around the world, but that really allowed MxV to showcase itself for what it is, which is the global leader in, like I said, R&D and testing and product development and everything along those lines, consulting, and just absolutely so proud of what we've built out there. And the industry fully supports it. MxV and Carrie have the industry's full support behind their back. I'm honored to be the chair of the board of that company, so I get to stay pretty engaged and work directly with her. But just so many cool things going on, and we're only scratching the surface. So just wait. There's a lot more great things to come.
And you mentioned the hazmat training for first responders. Now that is free if people qualify for the grant. Right. So I want people to understand that, and then go to the website and check that out as well. The website is mxvrail.com, easy enough. And you mentioned about the training. So Carrie offered to have me go through the smokehouse, and
Did you go?
Not yet. I'm scared. No, I am.
They haven't let me go through. I don't know if they think I'm going to get lost in there or something, or I don't know, but I want to go at some point.
Well, let's go together. I'll put on the GoPro. We'll get it done. But I am looking forward to doing that and take Carrie up on her offer for sure. And so again, I encourage everybody to go to the MxV Rail website and check out everything they do. It's really neat. And if you get a chance to visit as well, please do so. The link on the website is mxvrail.com. And thank you again, Carrie Gonzalez, for visiting with us on the podcast in season 1. So you also have operations departments, which I'm very familiar with as well, but our audience may not be. The AAR Bureau of Explosives, or BOE, which provides guidelines for tank cars, regulations for shippers, and more. So what can you tell us about the Bureau of Explosives?
I don't know. You're probably more of an expert than I am based on your prior career, to be honest. But yeah, you're right. So provide guidelines, make sure that tank cars are being built, to the appropriate specs and being done so at the highest level of safety, facilities, those things along those lines. And MxV actually is a leading part of that as well on behalf of the AAR. But again, it's all about just making sure we're all doing things to the highest level of safety and checking in and, holding ourselves accountable as an industry.
And you'll see these folks at all the tank car committee meetings and stuff. So I encourage people to ask questions if you have them while you're there. And then we mentioned the Tank Car Committee earlier, the AAR Tank Car Committee, or TCC, which helps to ensure the safe transportation of hazmat materials in tank cars via technical tank car and component design review, tank car manufacturing and repair facility certification, and industry-wide interchange standard setting. So I do attend these meetings regularly. I'm not on the board or anything like that, but I go to all the open meetings. What would you have to say about the importance of the Tank Car Committee itself?
Well, when you think about the goods that move in tank cars, or many of the goods that moves in tank cars, I don't think there's a more safety critical part of the organization than the TCC, because at the end of the day, there's no other option than to maximize safety when moving these goods. We're entrusted. We have a license, public license to move, goods that, frankly, we are by far the safest, best way to move them. And we need to be doing everything we can to maintain the public confidence that we're doing so at the highest level of safety. And that's why the TCC is so critically important, because that's where it all happens at the end of the day. And I know it's not easy. And I know that, there's a fair amount of push and pull on that committee, but I think that's because it's so important. And folks, like I mentioned earlier, everybody comes into those situations with the same goal of maximizing safety and reducing risk. And sometimes people have different approaches, but at the end of the day, we all want the same outcome. And that's why we move, 99.997% of hazmat loads without incident. We got to get that number as close to 100 as we can. So we're not there yet. And that's why we all got to keep working collectively together, pushing the ball forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would encourage everyone whether you're a tank car owner, tank car lessee, perhaps shipper, component manufacturer for sure, to attend these tank car committee meetings. They're so valuable, not only because of the conversations that are had, but the relationships you build with the FRA, because the FRA is there typically if the government's not shut down. That's a whole nother story. But
yeah, well, but, I mean, that's so true and that's true in so many aspects of not only the industry, but here in DC is, making those connections. And you can work so much better when you actually have the ability to converse with somebody or call them up. You don't want the first time you talk to somebody or the first time you meet somebody where you have a problem. Let's convene, let's talk, let's develop relationships, and that makes working through problems a lot easier at the end of it.
It absolutely does. And Transport Canada is there, and representation from Mexico is there. So there's so many opportunities to, as you said, build relationships and also get questions answered that you may have throughout the year. It's so much easier than emailing, or because people are busy. So you get everybody in the same room for 2 days or a day and a half, and it's so valuable. So I really encourage everyone to attend if you have the opportunity to do so. So there's PHMSA that's involved, and that's the Pipeline Hazardous Material Safety Administration. That's one of the many organizations, which we'll touch on here in just a moment, that's involved with tank cars and rail cars in general. There is a HM265 that's pending rulemaking from PHMSA that essentially proposes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it proposes to take the authority previously delegated to the AAR, currently delegated to the AAR Tank Car Committee for the certification of tank cars and tank car certified facilities, and give those responsibilities to PHMSA. So this would be a significant change. Obviously, those of us that have been around, I've been around for 30 years now, we're pretty much used to how this goes, right? So this is going to be a bit of a learning curve for everyone. I know it's not a ruling yet. Questions have been submitted, comments have been submitted, and PHMSA is going through all of that. But would you be willing to share your thoughts on the proposed rule?
Sure. So and there's also kind of two prongs to this. So there's the certification side, and then there's the quality assurance side. And on the certification side, at a very high level, I think we jointly said with RSI, the Rail Supply Institute, hey, conceptually, we think this could make sense. However, of course, the devil's always going to be in the details, especially safety critical activities along these lines. So, we got to see the details before we can make a true assessment. But at a very high level, if there are ways to increase the number of folks who are involved in certification without compromising safety, I think we're open to that conceptually. On the QA side, we express pretty strong concerns about, look, there's a right way to do QA, and we feel strongly that's the way we do it. And we don't want to risk any sort of watering down of the QA program. So that one, probably a tougher nut to crack. On the certification side, we think there's a possibility for a way forward. But again, you got to get into the details on that stuff because it is so important.
And there's a lot of questions out there. I can tell you from going to the tank car meetings and other meetings like that. Shops are wondering, geez, does this double our cost?
Right. There's that too, right? You
right.
never know.
Are there twice as many audits now? And then from a component side, if you're changing out valves, let's say from a Jamesbury to a Midland, and you would normally, submit all that stuff to the car owner who submits it to the AAR. Now does it go to FEMSA? How is that tracked? Where's all the data being housed? So there's a lot of questions still, and I think it'll be a great working process, and I think we'll get there. I think we'll definitely get there. So we mentioned FEMSA moments ago, which is a government agency. And when I first started in the industry, I thought the AAR was a government agency as well, just like all the rest of them, because you kind of all work together, right? And so, but you're not. But you do work with them literally every day. So can you take a moment to explain to our audience how the AAR relates and works with Department of Transportation, Surface Transportation Board, FEMSA, NTSB, FRA, basically everybody?
Yeah, the list is long, to say the least. Well, so let's just kind of go through kind of our core government agencies that we interact with. So under the umbrella of the DOT, you hit the Federal Rail Administration, our operational regulator. So anything involving the movement of the industry, kind of housed there, the safety agency. FEMSA, movement of hazmat, safe movement of hazmat. So anything hazmat specific is going to fall under the FEMSA umbrella. FRA and FEMSA do work closely together, and sometimes things kind of bebop back and forth between those two, or kind of fall within both of their purviews. And then you mentioned the Surface Transportation Board, independent agency, used to be part of the DOT. Now it stands alone, and that's our economic regulator. So if there's disputes around service or rates or things on commercial activities, that all falls under the STB's purview. And then, of course, we have the NTSB, another independent agency responsible for investigating, major incidents, which we try to minimize, of course. But a lot of good information comes out of those that we try to adopt as an industry when appropriate. We've got the TSA, Transportation Security Administration. We've got the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. We've got the National Mediation Board when it comes to, member and labor disputes. So there's a big swath of government that we're engaged in. But we try to do it in as collaborative way as possible. Sometimes there's a natural tension there, which is fine and healthy. On the security side, I would say working with DHS and TSA, very collaborative because, security is a shared goal, obviously. Not that the other things aren't as well, but that's one where I think there's the information flow is much more of a two-way street as far as, making sure all the modes are working together to maximize security. But you name an agency, that there's a good chance we're engaged some way, shape, or form with them.
And you mentioned some I'd never heard of before.
Right.
So
yeah,
and I'm sure there's more out there. There's an agency for everything.
There sure is.
Well, mergers and acquisitions are a hot topic right now, and I know our audience would love to hear your thoughts. However, I completely understand and respect that it's not a subject you can discuss with us today. So I highly encourage everyone to go back and listen to our episode we did earlier this year with Chairman of the STB, Patrick Fuchs, who did a great episode with us, was very courteous with his time, and we went through and discussed the review process in detail. So I really encourage everyone to go back and take a listen to that episode. So as we're at the end of 2025, which is really hard to believe, what are some of your highlights from this year?
Yeah, you're right. I can't believe we're sitting here at the end of the year already. So up on Capitol Hill, despite all the government shutdowns and everything along those lines, we were pleased with the outcome of the reconciliation package around tax, maintaining corporate rates what they were, but also making permanent bonus depreciation, R&D tax credits, things along those lines that we think will really support continued incentivization to invest as an industry and allow you to, seek the tax advantages more quickly. So hopefully that's good for not only rail, but, heavy infrastructure, heavy industries like ourselves, but also the whole economy. When we look over kind of at the administration, the agency side of the house, we've got a group of individuals that are much more open to innovation, technological advancement, really allowing us to take a look at some of our legacy regulations, whether it's track inspection, locomotive inspection, things that literally have been on the books for over 50 years and haven't been touched. I joke, next year our industry is going to celebrate its 200th anniversary. And we got some regulations that are going to be celebrating something close to that. So we got to modernize things. I'm not talking about gutting stuff. I'm talking about bringing it forward to reflect the capabilities we have today, using technology to frankly have a higher safety outcome than the current way of doing things. But we're fortunate that we've got a group of leaders over at the DOT, I think, who are open to a lot of that. Now, the regulatory process is designed to be slow, and so nothing ever moves as fast as you want it to. Now, on the flip side, if you have folks who are trying to do things you oppose, nothing ever moves as fast as you're afraid it might. But, it's just kind of a slog. But we've got to make progress on regulatory modernization. It's not a nice to have, it's a must do to maximize efficiency, safety, and the viability of the freight rail network. So we've made some progress there, taken a couple steps forward. We'll work hard to continue that into next year. And really just, the opportunity on Capitol Hill to continue to tell our story. We are a known quantity on the Hill. We've been around a long time, as you know. We've been very present on the Hill. We're unique in that, we generally can work together across all our members with one voice as an industry. And that makes us a really powerful voice. And we're going to continue to work hard to make sure that the value proposition of rail is known to all, and that we're protecting our flank to make sure that we've got the ability to continue to operate in a way that supports customers, supports communities, supports our employees, everything along those lines.
Now, are there any other updates you'd like to share? Some more good news, maybe like the collective bargaining that just took place.
Yeah, boy, talk about a difference of 2 rounds. So if we look back to where we were fall of 2022, it was a really tumultuous, challenging round between the railroads and their unions. We have 12 unions, just so folks know, 13 contracts. That's a lot to manage. But the last round was very challenging, coming out of the pandemic, coming out of supply chain disruptions. And frankly, it took an act of Congress to get us across the finish line for the last 2, which is not where you want to be. Congress had acted in that way 16 times prior, so it's certainly not unprecedented. But at the end of the day, you don't want Congress to have to seal your fate, or don't want to rely on Congress to get something across the finish line along those lines. So I don't think either side wanted a repeat of the last round. And so summer of 2024, folks, started getting together in advance of the date in which the amendments can begin to be discussed. But I will tell you, the round technically started January of 2025, and 95% of our employees are already under ratified contracts or contracts out for ratification. And that is truly unprecedented. I'll just give you a little fact. Prior to this round, the fastest amount of time to the first contract being signed, so one contract, one union, was 21 months. We're here under 12 months, and we have almost the entire universe under contract. And so that's really good for our employees. It's good for certainty for the railroads themselves, but employees know what their pay ranges are going to be for the next 5 years. They know what their health care is going to be. They know what work rules are. And so that just creates a healthier ecosphere for all of us to be working in. And hopefully it creates a happier employee, an employee who's more comfortable because they know kind of the lay of the land for the next several years. And it's better for everybody involved. So we're really pleased that both sides stepped up and did the work early on to get us to where we are.
No, that's a great news. And what do you see on the horizon for 2026? Anything you're excited about for the upcoming year?
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. And frankly, the collective bargaining stuff, that is probably the highlight from 25, I'll tell you. Looking ahead, we're going to continue to push the regulatory modernization goals over at the FRA. Congress is going to be engaged on some things we're going to be really keyed in on. The big surface transportation reauthorization legislation is due by the end of by September 30th, 2026. And so we'll be key players in that. That's the highway programs, transit programs, multimodal grant programs. There's rail provisions, Amtrak stuff that ends up in the final bill. So we'll be very engaged, key players in that to make sure we get some good things in there and keep the bad things out. There's going to be an effort to, I hope, move cargo theft legislation. Cargo theft is an issue across the entire supply chain, strategic cargo theft with, frankly, organized transnational criminal networks engaging in very high value activities, and state and local law enforcement entities just either don't have the capacity, the interest, or the wherewithal to really dig in and take this stuff on. Here and there, we've had some success, but we need the federal government to step up. This is the epitome of interstate commerce, whether it's trucking or rail. And that's why we were working arm in arm with the truckers, with the retailers, other groups to push legislation to bring the feds in, create centralized reporting, create some enforcement mechanisms, some enforcement resources to really litigate and prosecute and hopefully, take a real bite out of what's going on right now. We do have bipartisan legislation, both the House and the Senate, not something you hear every day, and a lot of momentum there. So that's something we're going to be working to try to get across the finish line. There's a lot of other activities out there, but there's a lot of opportunities, I would say. And so, like I said, regulatory modernization is probably number one. We need the STB, Surface Transportation Board, they have very strong preemption authority. So when they act, they basically have final say over interstate rail operations. And we run into a lot of issues in the states, whether it's locomotive emissions or holding up facility development, whether it's railroads or their customers or other rules, train length, things along those lines. The STB really has the authority to preempt all of that, and historically hasn't been super excited about flexing that muscle. But I think this board is much more interested in that. So we've been working hard with some other stakeholders, some customer groups to urge the STB to put out a strong preemption policy statement. And I'm hopeful that maybe first half of next year that'll happen, and that'll be a really big tool in supporting investment and the viability of the railroads out in the states.
What do you like most about what you do?
Well, I hope you can tell I'm excited about what I do.
Never.
Look, at the end of the day, like I said at the outset, it doesn't get more all-American than railroading, and it's tangible. It's steel on steel. It's, if you care about infrastructure investment, we're investing $23-25 billion of our own dollars every year. We say we invest so taxpayers don't have to. If you care about good paying union jobs, that's what we are. Average wages and benefits for our employees, $160,000 a year, and that can be on a GED. We're careers. We're not jobs. We're careers. That's why we have fourth generation railroaders out on our properties. We've got one of the best retirement systems, best healthcare systems, and a pretty good wage. It's hard work, and so folks need to be rewarded for that. You care about the environment, significantly lower emissions across the board when moving goods compared to over the highway. You care about safety. We're by far the safest way to move freight. The value proposition for this industry is so strong, and we're such a core piece of the American fabric and the history of America, but also its future. And so I'm just so happy I get to evangelize about this, whether it's in congressional hearings or in the media or podcasts like here today, to help tell our story, because that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, if we can effectively tell our story, we're going to be in a good spot.
And that's what we're here for, is to provide a platform for just that. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. So you speak to young people quite often with your public speaking. If you were to give advice to a young person that wants to get into our industry, what advice would you give them?
Well, part of it is, I think folks see railroads and think, legacy industry, old industry. We are a legacy industry, and we're very proud of our legacy, but we're not your grandfather's railroad. And we're not going to be, your grandson's railroad won't be our railroad. And so I think it's important for people to understand all the different types of careers. And frankly, if you're interested in getting into an industry where we're going through almost a technology revolution, railroads are a great place to be, because AI is just starting to seep its way in, and there's so many opportunities for utilizing AI, predictive analytics, everything along those lines to increase safety, increase capacity on the same network we have today, increase customer visibility. There's so many cool things going on that side. Now, on the flip side too, if you're interested in, frankly, any sort of blue collar career, any sort of trade, those opportunities are out on the railroad. So whether it's welding, mechanical, everything. So we kind of have opportunities for a lot of different career paths based on what your interests are. And these are jobs that are woven into the community. Again, long history, That's why the average tenure of our jobs is over 3 times other industries. It's over 12 years, fourth generation railroaders out there. So there's a lot of different opportunities that we may not, be right in front of you when you first think about railroading. You see a railroad going or a train going down the tracks. I will also say, I know you do a lot of work with veterans. I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, but we also work hard to hire a lot of veterans. About 20% of our folks are veterans, and that is a core constituency for our hiring. These are folks who are used to a very safety critical role, adherence to very strict policies and procedures. We're a 24/7 industry, so is the military, in all sorts of conditions and environments. And so we found, honestly, that former service members are really good railroaders. And so we try to maximize the opportunities for veterans and give them second careers in the railroad.
And I believe I saw a statistic, maybe the Bureau of Statistics, that stated that 2/3 of our industry are made up of veterans. So we are a veteran-heavy industry, and I love that.
We are. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, believe it or not, we're getting near the end of our hour together already. Any big plans for the holidays?
Well, I think my family and I are going to go check out a few of those countries you listed, and maybe we'll run into some listeners of your podcast. So we're going over to Europe. We're going to be up in Scandinavia. So I don't know if you have any listeners from Norway, but if not, maybe we'll get a few on board while we're there. So that's where we're going for the holidays. Really excited.
I appreciate that. I'll send you some of our business cards with the QR codes. You can just drop them as you go.
There you go. I was thinking you need to figure out a way to do a show in Europe to support all your European listeners. It'd be a good excuse.
I'm all for it. And we can get some sponsors on board to help us out with that. That'd be great. So thanks for the plug. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we go today?
You know what? First of all, thanks for the opportunity to be on. It's great to be able to spend some time and talk about all the issues we're working on. And, I hope everybody has a happy, healthy end of the year, holidays, and here's to a successful, safe 2026. This industry is going to continue, moving ahead, and always interesting times, to say the least. But it's one we should all be proud of being involved in. And, just like I said, the history of this industry is only rivaled by the future of this industry. So thanks for the opportunity to be here today.
My pleasure. And thank you for being here. Would you like to join us again on a future episode?
Sounds good.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Well, happy holidays. Happy New Year. I'm going to say Merry Christmas because it hasn't been Christmas yet by the time we're recording. So we'll look forward to seeing you again soon, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And now we're going to jump into my 2 cents. So in my past, when you get a call from the AAR or saying that the AAR is here, like I'd be out in the yard at a railcar repair facility, my radio would go off, "Boss, the AAR is here." People would tend to get into panic, right? And the hair would stand up on the back of their necks. But it shouldn't be that way. Sure, a portion of their job is to ensure standards are being adhered to, and they have to do audits, and BOE comes out and does audits, and the FRA does too. But on a much larger scale, the AAR is a tremendous resource that we shouldn't be afraid to take care of. And I really encourage you guys to check out the websites, check out AAR.org, check out Railinc, check out MxV Rail. Look at all the different resources that are available to us as an industry as a result of the AAR being around since 1934. And that's my 2 cents. So no FEMSA updates this month. Again, I'm trying to leave them alone for the holidays, give them a bit of a break. So we'll catch up with them again in the new year, which again, gosh, it's hard to believe that the new year is already here. This year has really, really flown by. I don't know if you feel the same, but it sure seems like it. I'd also like to again thank the Revolution Rail Group, our anchor sponsor, and that is me. So we are a consulting and brokering firm in the railcar industry. So if you need any kind of consulting help, whether it's merger and acquisition consulting, process flow analysis, market analysis, we can help you with that. We can also help you with buying, selling, and leasing of railcars and subleasing of railcars. You can check out our full suite of services on our website at therevolutionrailgroup.com. You can also contact us at 844-455-3434 or at info@therevolutionrailgroup.com. We look forward to hearing from you. So stay tuned for our next episode next year. It's crazy to say that we're going to be entering season 4 of the podcast, which is really incredible. And that's thanks to our sponsors like EnviroServe. It's thanks to all of you that are listening and sharing. And again, I really encourage the UK, Canada, and Australia to keep fighting for second place. I think it's great. And the rest of you too, jump in and start sharing like crazy wherever you're listening from. We love having you aboard. Thank you for joining us on this journey this year and into 2026 for season 4 as well. So with that, I say God bless, make it a great day, and Happy New Year. We'll see you next year.
Thanks for joining us on the American Railroading Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover on a future episode or want to support or sponsor the show, please visit our website at AmericanRailroading.net. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on the American Railroading Podcast.